Hello, Bond fans. This is Greenie with another review of one of La La Land Records' wonderful releases to remastered and expanded James Bond soundtracks that they've been doing for about 5 or 6 years now. And this is my new video, and I'm doing Live and Let Die this time. One of the few non-Barry scores to that point. Well, actually, it's the first, other if you don't count Dr. No. And it's a great one. As much as I love John Barry and he does suitable scores to the Bond films, I kind of like different interpretations from other composers from time to time. And Live and Let Die does not disappoint as far as I'm concerned. Now let's dive in. So a little history about the soundtrack to Live and Let Die. For me personally, I had a CD by production company or something called Emmy Manhattan. Early 90s, mid 90s, somewhere along that line. I'm going to say early 90s, the more I think about it. The recordings were an analog, and it was the actual album of Live and Let Die soundtrack. And that's what I had, 35 some years ago. So in 2003, most people know that they grabbed a bunch of old Bond scores, remastered them. Some were expanded, and Live and Let Die was given the expansion treatment. The only thing I didn't like is that, you had the album the way it was, and then all the additional stuff that they added was kind of combined into their own little suites, like this track and that track and that track were blended into one, 3-minute track, regardless of where it was in the film. Now, I'm a completist. I like the album to be in order, and that's why I love La La Land's hands on these Bond scores, and as they're doing them, because they're doing them the right way. I love seeing them in the order that they are in the movie, because I like playing the movie along as the music's going. So, given that, the 2003 version was decent. I think it was fairly complete. If I'm not mistaken, if anything was missing, there might have been a note or a fanfare or a bang or something might have been missing. Otherwise, I think it was pretty much everything, and all fit onto one disc too. So now we come to March of 2024, last year, and La La Land puts out the 50th anniversary of Live and Let Die. A little side trivia here is Live and Let Die was released in the United States one day after I was born. So I was born June 26, 1973, and the movie came out June 27th, 1973. So a little useless trivia there. So what I'd like to do is go over some highlights of the La La Land release. And first I'm going to say that the remastering is fantastic. It sounds great. There's some extras on there, some unused music, like for the boat chase. We'll get into that in a minute, but I wanted to go over just some things about the album in general. The ragtime music. I noticed that the La La Land release doesn't have the movie version of how it was played. Probably wasn't meant to be, and I'm sure it wasn't on the tapes. I know, I just like the version in the film better. And it was probably recorded live on the spot and just wasn't recorded for soundtrack purposes anyway. But I just wanted to make notice that I like the movie version better, and I guess I was expecting to see it on the soundtrack. But I can understand why it's not. There's also different versions of the Filet of Soul music that leads into B.J. Arnault singing the song Live and Let Die. That's kind of neat to hear an alternate version or a recording of that. And same with, there's an early version of San Monique, when Bond arrives and is in his room checking for bugs. And, that's pretty cool. So I like that. And then there's like the album version of Sacrifice where Solitaire's being, hung up to be bitten by the snake and everything. And then there's the movie version of it, which is slightly different. You can actually hear a couple little at the very end. It doesn't cut off. There's just certain differences, and that's all made available, which is really cool. You know, there are certain tweaks that La La Land made versus the 2003 version, like the so the music doesn't like overblend too quickly. Like example, Trespassers Will Be Eaten. You know, there's like two segments to that piece of music. You know, Bond gets abandoned on the island, and that's one piece of music. And then the music stops, and Bond's trying to figure a way off. And once he jumps, then the music picks back up again. So in the 2003 release, the music, while the fade out from the part one is still going, the continuation later just kind of jumps right in. You know, there's no breath. La La Land gives you that breath, and I love that they did that. You know, it even says extended version, which is like 2-3 seconds, but you got that little breath between both parts of the track, and I like that. There are great pieces of music that are either entirely not used at all or cut down for whatever purpose. An example of that is the boat chase music. Some of it's incorporated, and then it fades out just before the wedding scene. So in the version that we get, in the order of the movie, we get that whole version, including like the bells of Here Comes the Bride in there, you know. But there's an alternate boat chase that's entirely not used at all, which actually starts further back, right after Adam steals Billy Bob's boat. And they're waiting, you know, Billy Bob's boat to fly by, and, you know, Pepper's there saying, "That's my brother-in-law." The alternate version starts that far back and plays all the way through, including the wedding part. And I will tell you, and I'm going to have links below, because somebody took both boat chase tracks from La La Land's CD and then put them up against the movie, where they would be in their entirety. So you have the one that was used but then cut short before the wedding, playing all the way through the wedding, and then the one I just mentioned that had been cut entirely, starting up when Adam steals Billy Bob's boat and playing all through the wedding. I'm going to have the links to both of those below. That way you can check them out and see how it would have sounded either way. And give me feedback on that, because personally I like them both. Might have been cool if they could have found a way to incorporate both of them, started all the way back, and incorporate both versions and play it. I think they should have just played it through the wedding. I don't know. I liked what I saw, but you'll see the links below if you want to check them out. I didn't make the videos, but it totally puts things into perspective, you know. And then there's On the Train, which is music when they're on the train at the end, which is just not there. And I was scratching my head because that music was on the original score way back, and I think it's attached to Bond Drops In. You know, it's like an almost 4-minute piece of music, but Bond Drops In is really only about 1 minute. And then the next 3 minutes is this just, it sounds like Bond just roaming around San Monique. So I thought that was the area that music got cut from. Had no idea it had anything to do with them getting on the train or the end of the movie, because it just didn't sound right. So again, there's a link below. The same guy that did the aforementioned boat chase sequences against the La La Land record music, the scores of the boat chase, also did the same. Now, what I did, and then it makes more sense, because that music for On the Train starts exactly after Kananga pops like a balloon, and right where he and Solitaire reunite and they're getting out of the, you know, the little cave they're in. And the music's playing all through Felix's farewell, them getting on the train. The music's playing through them playing cards. And then the music's playing with Teehee sneaking on board and everything. But it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't belong. And I'm glad they cut it. Let me just put it that way. But yeah, so I'll have the link for that too, so you can see how that plays through. And then the music stops right as the fight starts, right after she gets knocked into the overhead compartment and Bond throws the cards at Teehee and that fight begins. That's where the music stops. So this is the La La Land Live and Let Die. 2 CDs. I love it. I think it's wonderful. Highly recommended. Remastered very well. I'm a further completist. I mean, La La Land is great. They will put everything in order. But certain background stuff, like if it's casino source music or some kind of a sound effect or something outside of the driven path of the film, they usually kind of put that on the second disc. And what I do is I go back and I make my own CD of my own expanded score, and I take Lala's stuff and I find out, you know, where all that stuff is, and I just re-blend it. Trying to find something offhand here from Live and Let Die. Actually, I think Live and Let Die is fairly all the way through in the order that it should have been. But yeah, so I make my own expanded score and put things even more into order if La La Land moves something to like the second disc. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up because that's about all I can say about Live and Let Die. But I hope this was useful for you, especially the links I'm giving you to these videos so you can compare how some of this unused music or cut short music blended with the film as it would have been. So Greenie will return. Look out for my next video, which I hope to get out there soon. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you like what you see. I have more Bond stuff on it. I have a cavalcade of entertaining stuff, including the Continuity Police, where I blow the whistle on continuity errors in random films. And a tons more movies and music galore on my page. So check it out, and I'll see you on the next video.